الحمد لله وكفى وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد, to proceed, we continue today with our discussions pertaining the حقوق المشتركة بين الزوجين, the rights that are shared between the spouses. The rights that are shared between the spouses. And as much as that the religion of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is built upon al-adl, is built upon justice and giving everyone their due rights, and the affair of justice is connected to at-tawheed all throughout the book of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. As Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said, شَهِدَ اللَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ وَأُولُو الْعِلْمِ قَائِمًا بِالْقِسْطِ. Say, or rather, Allah bears witness that nothing has a right to be worshipped except for He, as do the angels, as do the people of knowledge. قَائِمًا بِالْقِسْطِ. And He is the establisher of justice. So they bear witness that Allah has a right to be worshipped, and that Allah is the establisher of justice. The affair of singling out Allah with worship is the greatest form of justice. Along those lines, and the entire religion is built upon justice and fairness and fulfilling the rights of Allah and the rights of the creation, to the point that some of the people of knowledge have mentioned that the rights of the creation are only called their rights because they have لَهُمُ الْحَقِّ فِي التَّنَازُلِ عَنْ حُقُوقِهِمْ, because they have the right to forego their rights. Because they have the right to forego their rights. Otherwise, the huquq of the creation, the rights of the creation, fulfilling ta'adiyatu huquq al-khalq mean adai huquq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfilling the rights of the creation as a part of fulfilling Allah's rights. It is part of our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the ruh, and the spirit of al-adl and al-rahmah and al-amana that was the cause of the spread of Islam in the earliest of generations, because the Muslims were people of mercy and people of justice and people who fulfilled their responsibilities, and they were the highest example for mankind of these things. And so these subject matters that touch social issues are very important for us as Muslims in general, and as Salafis in particular, because this is one of those issues that we see shamatut al-a'da concerning, and we see the gloating of our enemies and our adversaries concerning, meaning that the disbelievers and ahlul bid'ah, that they gloat over the social ills that are found in the Salafi communities, that are found in the convert communities, in particular in America and in the UK, and this is something that they like to hold over our heads, and the mass degree and occurrence of divorce inside of our communities. And we know that divorce generally is usually connected to economic reasons and any things affecting a person's social standing and those sorts of things, and coming from backgrounds where they are first generation Muslims. And there are a number of challenges that new Muslims in general face, and the Salafis without a doubt in particular face, in as much as that they are quraba, that they are strangers. And so these issues are from the most important of issues for us to tackle and for us to address and to wrap our minds around. And even if we feel as though we have been married for some time, or even if we have only been married for a shorter period of time, that we are wonderful people, and we are fulfilling the rights of our spouses, كما يجب وكما ينبغي, as is obligatory and mandatory, and as is befitting for us, and so on and so forth. Whatever we may imagine about our situation, without a doubt, as people who are some of the core people in our communities, and this is the reality, whether we acknowledge it or not, that the people who attend the masajid regularly and sit in the classes regularly, that they are viewed as the wujuh of the jaliyah. They are viewed as the faces of the community, and the people who are the most frequent people found in the masajid attending the classes, so on and so forth, are the people that are most likely to be turned to by other Muslims who frequent the masjid less frequently, come to the masjid less frequently, and to seek for advice. People will seek out the advice of people that they think know something that they may not know, or have been Muslim longer than they are Muslim, or are respected in the community, and those sorts of things. So it is very important for as many people in the community as possible to wrap their minds around these sorts of issues, and to have a strong understanding and to have strong fundamentals that they can turn to in giving advice. Because ad-deenu nasiha, the religion is sincere advice. And this also lightens up my job when there are more people that can give sincere advice in marital situations and simple, basic marital situations. This is what we find. The vast majority of marital problems that happen in our community require basic common sense advice. There's a small percentage of issues that really require a lot of experience in dealing with, and require a lot of knowledge in dealing with. That requires for the scholars to be consulted, or people who have consulted the scholars about these issues, who have experience to actually involve themselves in them. And so this, without a doubt, it removes some hardship and some difficulty from the people of responsibility who have a host of other problems to worry about and a number of other things to concern themselves with. And so, that being said, we'll continue benefiting from some of what was written by the Shaykh, the Faqih, Allama Muhammad ibn Ali Furqus, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, who was a Salafi scholar from the outer scholars of Algeria, well known, praised and recommended by many of the senior scholars of today. He says, after mentioning the statement of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, we covered this before I traveled. He said, after mentioning the statement of Allah in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said, وَلَا هُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. And that لَهُنَّ, and that they have the haqq, the lam of istihqaq, and that they have the haqq. They have rights that are due to them, just like the rights that are obligated upon them of ma'ruf. They are expected to behave with their spouses with ma'ruf, with goodness, and they have that type of treatment coming to them. Just as it is obligatory upon them, they have that coming to them. وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. And the men, they have a degree over them. And the men, they have a degree over them. Pay attention to that statement and we'll come to it. Because in many people's minds, that the men have a degree over them, something else comes to mind. Something else comes to mind. وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. And what is meant by that? What is meant by that is not usually what comes to a mind of a person. A person in their mind, they say the men have a degree of superiority or virtue over them, or they have a higher right that is due to them than what is coming to them, and so on and so forth. And we'll come to see in the statement of Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, the reality of the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said that in general, what we have here is al-mumathala fil huquq bayna az-zawjayn, and that the rights that are shared between the spouses, that they are similar in nature. That they are similar in nature. That they are expected to do that which they expect from others. And this is a general principle in Islam. As the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُزَحْزَحَ عَنَ النَّارِ وَيُدْخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَلْتَأْتِيهِ مَنِيَّتُهُ وَهُوَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَلَيَأْتِي إِلَى النَّاسِ الَّذِي يُحِبُّ أَنْ يُؤْتُوا إِلَيْهِ. And whoever wants to be distanced into the paradise and whoever wants to be entered into paradise, distance far away from the fire, let him meet his death at the moment that he dies, while he believes in Allah on the last day, and let him deal with people how he would like to be dealt with. Pay attention to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, because it comes after the tremendous statement of the Prophet ﷺ in Hadith Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhum in Sahih Muslim. Prophet ﷺ, he said, there was never a prophet before me إِلَّا كَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْهِ أَن يَدُلَّ أُمَّتُهُ عَلَى خَيْرِ مَا يَعْلَمُهُ لَهُمْ. And there was never a prophet before me except that it was a right his nation had upon him to teach him of every good that he knew for them, and to warn them of every evil of which he knew for them. And this statement, to believe in Allah, let him die while he believes in Allah and the day of judgment, and let him deal with people like he would like to be dealt with. The person who believes in Allah in the last day, and he yusaddiq, and he believes in Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, wa yuhaqqiq, and the tasdeeq is of two parts. The tasdeeq of his heart, he accepts it and he submits to it. This is all part of Iman with Ahlul Sunnah. And he accepts it as being the truth, and so, because it is the overwhelming truth, he submits to it in obedience, lovingly, so on and so forth, and he implements it in his obedience. That's the first thing, al-Iman. The second thing is dealing with people like you would like to be dealt with. So you fulfill the rights of Allah and the rights of the creation. This is the summarization of the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, and that he taught his nation of every good of which he knew for them, and he warned them of every evil of which he knew for them. وَإِنَّ أُمَّتُكُمْ هَذِهِ جُعِلَتْ عَافِيَتُهَا فِي أَوَّلِهَا. What is the thamara of that? Because Iman, as we just heard, it has an asl, which is a tasdeeq wal-inqiyad. And Iman has a core, has roots, has a foundation that everything else sprouts from and grows from, which is to believe and to submit. To believe and to submit, this is the core of Iman. And then the actions emanate from that, and those are the branches of Iman. And then upon those branches there are what? Fruits. وَإِنَّ أُمَّتُكُمْ هَذِهِ جُعِلَتْ عَافِيَتُهَا فِي أَوَّلِهَا. What was the fruit of that? What was produced by that? Indeed, this nation of yours, it saw its afiyah in its earliest days. It saw its afiyah, its felicity, its state of well-being, being spared from calamity and trial and so on and so forth in its earliest days. In which time? خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best of mankind is my generation, and those who come after them, and those who come after them. And so the Ummah, it saw the fruits of that in the early days when they were adhering to them. When they were fulfilling the rights of Allah, Tabarak wa ta'ala, believing in Allah in the last day, and that being reflected in their behavior, and dealing with people like they would like to be dealt with. Dealing with the Muslims, dealing with the non-Muslims, dealing with their spouses, dealing with their business partners, dealing with those that they bought from, dealing with those that they sold to, so on and so forth, like they would like to be dealt with. And this caused the spread of Islam throughout the earth. This caused the spread of Islam throughout the earth, and it caused the afiyah. And it brought about a state of well-being for the Muslims. وَسَيُصِيبُ آخِرَهَا بَلَاءٌ وَأُمُورٌ تُنْكِرُونَهَا. But the latter part of this nation will be afflicted with calamities and matters that you would despise. تَجِيءُ الْفِتَنُ فَيُرَقِقُ بَعْضُهَا بَعْضًا. Fitna will come every time it comes. It will make what came before seem light, and it will increase in severity, get worse and worse and worse and worse. Because of what? Because the people have a weakness in their iman and their what they believe about Allah and the Day of Judgment, and they don't deal with people like they would like to be dealt with. And so they start to shed the blood of one another, fight over leadership, fight over wealth, innovate in the religion, innovate deviant creeds concerning Allah in the last day, these sorts of things. It eroded the foundation of Islam away. Little by little, the tawheed and the justice that Islam was established upon, little by little. And so the thamarat were also lost. The fruit of faith was also lost, except for by those that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala spared from them, who were the ghuraba. Tuba lil ghuraba, the hadith says. Tuba is for the ghuraba. Look at the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, the rest of the other hadith. The rest of the other hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the best of mankind is my generation, and those who come after them, and those who come after them. ثُمَّ يَجِيُّ قَوْمٌ يَشْهَدُونَ وَلَا يُسْتَشْهَدُونَ وَيَأْتَمُونَ وَيَخُونُونَ وَلَا يُؤْتَمَنُونَ. And they will come after them a people who will give their testimony without being asked for their testimony. Meaning that they were people that are not trustworthy. They are not people who are fair and just and who are dignified people, that their testimony would even be accepted. They will give testimony without being asked for their testimony. وَيَخُونُونَ وَلَا يُؤْتَمَنُونَ. If you don't understand that, then the next part of the hadith explains it to you. And they will be treacherous and will not be trustworthy. وَيَظْهَرُ فِيهِمَ السِّمَنُ. And then fatness, obesity will appear amongst them. Fatness and obesity will appear amongst them. You know, it doesn't mean that if a person is normally a big person, that there's something wrong with them. Some people are. Because I think the last time I mentioned this, somebody sent me an email, right? Some of the companions were big. They were big men, right? Naturally, normally big men. right? And heavy, big men. They were energetic, but they were large. They were large, and heavy set, so on and so forth. From them was Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, radiyallahu anhu, the katib, the scribe of the Prophet ﷺ, the first king in Islam. Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, and the best of the companions. From them was Abdullah bin Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, and others. Imam Muslim ibn Hajjaj was known to be a big man. A number of scholars of hadith known to be big men. So if a person is normally like that, naturally like that, and he tries to take care of his health, so on and so forth, and not let that get out of hand, those sorts of things. But it's not an aib in and of itself. The guy, he was skinny his whole life. Right? He was a twig growing up, so on and so forth. You see him, he looks like he's pregnant with twins. Right? The welfare is giving him a lot of food stamps every month, and he's taking advantage of that. He's, packing up his fridge and, packing up his plate and getting seconds. Right? And he's not exercising and those sorts of things. Right? وَيَظْهَرُ فِيهِمَ السِّمَنُ. So people will become greedy, they'll become attached to the dunya, and they'll become dishonest. They won't fulfill the rights, the responsibilities that others have upon them, these sorts of things. This is the quality that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the latter generations. And so this is connected to fulfilling the rights of the creation, how the amana will be lost in the end of times. There are a number of hadith about that. A number of hadith about the loss of the amana in the latter generations. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala make us from the people who are umana, people who are trustworthy and responsible. Ala kullin, so the affair is very important. The affair is very important, that the general principle in Islam is to deal with people like you would like to be dealt with. Al-mumathala. That you deal with people like you would like to be dealt with. And this is something that cannot be emphasized enough. He says, so the verse that obligates al-mumathala fi ta'diyati kulli wahidin min az-zawjayn ma alayhi min al-haqq li sahibihi bil ma'ruf. He said, and so the verse that obligates al-mumathala, that people fulfill the rights of one another in a way that they expect to receive their rights in ma'ruf. فكانت المماثلة بالمعروف هي ميزان المعاملة بينهما في جميع الشؤون والأحوال. And so dealing with one another with ma'ruf is the scale and the standard by which they interact with one another in all of their affairs. غير أن المماثلة في الحقوق المشتركة بين الزوجين قد تثبت على أساس التقابل المتبادل بينهما في الحقوق على أنهما أكفاء من غير شرط المطابقة بين عيان تلك الحقوق. He said, but what is meant by this is not that they have the exact same rights between themselves. And so if your wife cooks you a meal, you have to cook her a meal. Or if you bring $3,000, $5,000 a month into the home, that your wife, she needs to bring $5,000 a month into the home. Right? What you're spending, she has to match. What she's cooking, you have to match. Of course, that's not the case. The exact afrad and ayan, the exact individual rights that each of you are doing towards one another in a situation of a ta'awun, of mutual exchange, of course, they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. This is something that many people go to extremes in. They believe that the man and the woman, the kuffar, they've come out with these research papers and they say families are happier where the man spends an equal amount of time with the children than the woman. Well, the unfortunate part of that was that the man will probably take years of his life, will be lost, meaning that he'll probably die earlier from the stress of spending an equal amount of time with the children than the woman. Men are not built like women when it comes to dealing with children. We don't have the genetic makeup to deal with children like our wives do. Doesn't mean that we can't spend time with our children and they take an hour or two a day, try to alleviate the burden of the wife, so on and so forth. But what the kuffar is saying and putting out there, spending equal amount of time, these sorts of things, are actually Muslims who try to do this. So the man works and the woman works, and I spent this much time with the children, you need to spend this much time with the children. This has no basis in Islam. And there's not this tabadul of these ayan and afrad, the Shaykh said, these exact things. She does this and so you do that equally, and you're doing this so she does that equally. That's not what is meant here. Each of the spouses, they have things that are particular to them, and this is something that will come later. that the Shaykh mentions and goes into detail. And we're starting the basis of the shared rights and responsibilities, the things that are the shared rights and responsibilities of the husband and the wife. He says, فَمَا مِنْ عَمَلٍ تَعْمَلُهُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِزَوْجِهَا إِلَّا وَلِلرَّجُلِ عَمَلٌ يُقَابِلُهُ لَهَا إِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ مِثْلَهُ فِي شَخْصِهِ وَعَيْنِهِ فَهُوَ مِثْلُهُ فِي جِنْسِهِ. He says, so there's nothing that the woman does, for example, except that her husband, the man he has, there's nothing a woman does for her husband except that the man has an action that he does in contrast to what she is doing, in response, in exchange for what she has done. And if it is not the exact thing, then it is something of the sort, meaning that she has shown him some kindness, so he is showing her some kindness in turn. فإن تعذر في جنس الفعل أو العين فيقابله بحسبه بما يليق بالرجال من زيادة التوسعة والإنفاق أو في حسن العشرة والصحبة. He said if it is something that is just not for men to do, is not something from the ways of men, that she has done something like we said, she ironed your clothes so you iron her clothes, she cooked you a meal so you cook her a meal. Doesn't mean from time to time you can't cook her a meal, those sorts of things. But what the Shaykh is saying here, if he doesn't do exactly the thing that was done for him in return, then what he is doing is spending more upon her and earning more to be able to spend upon her. And so this is what is meant, he said. And this is due to the statement of Allah, وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةً. And the men, they have a degree over them, meaning a degree of responsibility that is obligated more than what the women have obligated towards us. You got that? And so the men, they have to earn more, they have to spend more, these sorts of things. And so he should try to match what she does. He should try to match what she does. And of course, there's no way that we can ever repay what our wives have done, giving birth to our children, those sorts of things, raising our children, spending time with our children. There's nothing in the world that is similar to a righteous woman. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَيْرُ مَكْتَنَزَ النَّاسِ لِسَانٌ شَاكِرٌ وَلِسَانٌ ذَاكِرٌ وَقَلْبٌ شَاكِرٌ وَامْرَأَةٌ صَالِحَةٌ تُعِينُكَ عَلَى أَمْرِ دِينِكَ وَدُنْيَاكَ. The best treasure that people hoard onto themselves is a tongue that remembers Allah, a heart that is grateful to Allah, and a righteous woman that helps you in your deen and your dunya. There's nothing comparable to that. The best thing in the world, after having a heart grateful to Allah, a tongue that is remembering of Allah, is a righteous woman that helps you in your deen and your dunya. So we don't have the attitude that we could really repay what is being done to us. And likewise, the woman, they shouldn't have the attitude they shouldn't have the attitude either, as comes in a number of ahadith. As regards the woman, don't you see if he had a wound and you was to lick that wound, do you think that you would have fulfilled, and he was infected and you was to lick the wound, to nurse it, so on and so forth, do you think he would have fulfilled his rights? And if I was to order anyone to make sajda to anyone, it would be the woman to make sajda out of honor to her husband, these sorts of things. And so the general mentality of the person is not that they, in what they're doing, that they're actually repaying what the person has done for them, but they're trying to. They're making an attempt, so that they're grateful for what Allah has provided for them. Because if we're not grateful, Allah may take the blessing from us. There's an authentic hadith collected by the Prophet, by Suyuti, mentioned by Suyuti in al-Jami' al-Saghir, authenticated by Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. I believe it's found in the Musnad Imam Ahmad, collected by Ahmad in his Musnad. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى نَاسًا يَخْتَصُهُمْ بِالنَّعَمِ لِمَنَافِعِ الْعِبَادِ فَيَقِرُّهَا فِيهِمْ مَا بَذَلُوهَا وَإِذَا مَنَعُوهَا نَزَعَهَا مِنْهُ فَحَوَّلَهَا إِلَى غَيْرِهِمْ. And that Allah has ibad, slaves that He gives particular blessings to, so that they could be of a benefit for the creation. They could be of a benefit for the creation. And He allows them to keep their blessings so long as they are treating those blessings in the proper fashion, using those blessings in the proper fashion. But when they do not, when they refuse to do so, نَزَعَهَا مِنْهُمْ فَحُوَّلَهَا إِلَى غَيْرِهِمْ. He would take the blessings from them and give them to somebody else. How many people were ungrateful for their spouse? How many sisters are ungrateful for their husbands? And then what happens? They lose their husband. and their husband, he ends up married to another sister, and they live happily ever after. Or the opposite situation, a man was ungrateful for his wife, he complained about her, everything she did wasn't good enough, so on and so forth, and then what? It ended in divorce. He let the sister go, she was worthless to him, and then she became the cornice of somebody else's eye, so on and so forth, because they weren't grateful for each other. And so as long as we have this attitude of being grateful for one another, and this is the basis that we are fulfilling the rights of one another based upon of this tabadul, of the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, "Man sana'a alaykum ma'rufan fakafi'uhu." Whoever does an act of goodness for you, then you do what? Then you repay it. إِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَادْعُ لَهُ. Yani if you don't have the ability, make dua for that person. Another narration, إِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ, if you do not have the ability to repay that goodness, فَثْنُ عَلَيْهِ خَيْرًا إِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعُوا. And if you do not have the ability to do that, then speak well of that person. And speak well of that person. As we'll come to see that it is forbidden for a person, and from fushu asrar az-zawjayn, from what is called spreading the secrets of the spouses, is a person speaking ill of their spouse publicly. Something happened privately between you and your spouse, because what is primarily meant by that, the prohibition of that, is, a person has intimacy with another person. They talk about what happened intimately between them and another person. Talk about any of the details of, whatever, right? But what is included in that, and Shaykh mentions it here, is, and what occurs in private that is not known, and you spread it. And you spread it. These are from min ashar al-nasi manzilatan 'inda Allah yawm al-qiyamah, as the Prophet ﷺ said. They are from the worst of people in standing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. There's a man who goes to a woman, the woman goes to a man, and then when they are in public, they spread what occurred between them. And so, this is a reminder for people who like to put their business on the street, so on and so forth. It's permissible only in the case of a tadallum, and where a person is actually being tadallum, and they are going to somebody who can fulfill their right, who can help them get their rights, secure their rights, so on and so forth, and it is done according to haja, because it's forbidden, and that which is forbidden is only permitted by necessity, right? That which is forbidden is only permitted by necessity, وَالضَّرُورَةُ قَدَرُ بِقَدْرِهَا, and what is a necessity is only done according to the amount that is necessary, right? So if a person didn't have food, and there was a dead pig, right? And he had to eat the dead pig, right? Now he wouldn't make the pig into so I'm going to make some ham, or make some pig jerky, right? He has 16 different dishes he made out of the pig, right? He's like, it's permissible. There's nothing to eat except for the pig. He only eats enough to stay alive, right? So likewise, this is forbidden. It's a riba, right? If a woman goes, or if a man goes and he complains to somebody about what his wife, or she complains to somebody about what the husband did, it's only permissible to secure their rights in order for somebody to intervene for islah, so on and so forth. And to go to excesses is just like that, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, when Aisha made ta'yir of Safiya, talked about her stature, so on and so forth, that you uttered a word, if it was mixed with the waters of the oceans, it would have polluted them, right? So what about the person, the worst form of riba? When there's another hadith that says that the least form of riba, the riba is so many different branches, the least form of it is hideous, like a man having intercourse with his mother. It's like a man having intercourse with his mother. And the Prophet ﷺ, in another hadith, said the worst type of riba, right, is what? Is a person at tatawul, and if you the aqiq, or kama qala ﷺ, is a person going to great lengths to talk about the honor of his Muslim brother. And so a person who does that concerning what? This is a situation, there are hadith that mention that it is a major sin, that prove to us it is a major sin for a woman to be ungrateful to her ex-husband. It is a major sin for a woman to be ungrateful to her ex-husband. So what about somebody's current husband? If they're fulfilling her rights, so on and so forth, and she complains about them, she says things that are unjustified about them, these sorts of things, or vice versa. This is something that is destructive, and it's something that is harmful, and it proves that there is a sickness in a person's heart and a corruption in their understanding of their religion. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala cure our communities. Ala kullin, so this is what is understood, that the men, they have a daraja over them, they have a degree over them, أي زيادة في الحق والفضيلة والإنفاق والقيام بالمصالح. Because most people, they think of the fadila part, and that's mentioned here, that they have a degree of virtue over them. But virtue in Islam is not gotten through osmosis. Just because I was born into a particular tribe or particular caste, or because my skin color is this, or because I have this much money in the bank, I'm a dignified person. Fadila, honor and dignity and virtue in Islam is gotten because of something that a person is doing. It is gotten because of something that a person is doing. And so he said, meaning that they have a daraja over the woman, meaning an increase in the right that the women have over them, right? And in al-fadila, and therefore in virtue. Wal-infaq, thirdly in spending. And so they have to spend, they have to increase in spending. And the woman, she gives what she does what she does, so on and so forth. She works as she works. The man, he works harder. Her place is in the home, his place is outside of the home. What he does outside of the home, sweating, stressing, dealing with the people that he has to interact with, so on and so forth, is more difficult than what she does in the home in general, umuman, right? And so he has to go through certain sacrifices, so on and so forth. So in spending and in al-qiyam bil-masarih, undertaking what is of a benefit for the family. وفي معنى الآية قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما لهن من حسن الصحبة والعشرة بالمعروف على أزواجهن مثل الذي عليهن من الطاعة فيما أوجبه عليهن لأزواجهن. He said, what is meant by it? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he says, what is meant by it is husn al-suhbah. And he is that they have coming to them, the women, they are deserving of good companionship, wal-ishra, and good treatment, with ma'roof, with kindness. Ala azwajihinna, they have this right over their husbands. Mithlu alladhi alayhinna, just as there is a right upon them that is obligated upon them of obeying their husbands. And whatever their husbands obligate upon them is not disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they must obey their husbands. They must obey their husbands. And there are a number of tremendous explicit hadith about that. And about 9 or 10 months ago, our brother Musa Richardson gave us a talk for the sisters event that is found in the Masjid Rahmah speaker, for anyone who wants to listen to it, that mentions the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ obligating obedience of the wife towards her husband. Obligating the obedience of the wife towards her husband. And this is something that there is la ghadadata fih, there is no disgrace in, but rather everything that Allah has revealed for mankind, as he said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Indeed, we have honored the children of Adam. Indeed, we have honored the children of Adam. Right? And so everything in the religion is to honor the human being, and everything that opposes the religion disgraces and humiliates the human being. وَمَا تَوَاضَعَ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ. And no one humiliates, or no one humbles themselves for Allah except that Allah will raise them. Except that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala raise them. وقد تثبت المماثلة في الحقوق بين الزوجين في عيان أو أفراد نوع من الحقوق على وجه المقابلة وبشكل متطابق مع عيانها أو أفرادها مثل الآداب العامة من رفق في المعاملة والمعاشرة بالمعروف. He said, and so although not every right is shared between the spouses, there are a number that are shared. There are a number of rights that are shared between the spouses. And the exact right is something that is obligated upon the man and obligated upon the woman. He said, for example, the general etiquettes of kindness in dealing and treatment of the spouse. فَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ مِنَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ يُقَابِلُ حَقَّ صَاحِبِهِ بِتَأْدِيَةِ مَا عَلَيْهِ تجاهه على وجه مماثلة متطابقة على بعض أفراد تلك الآداب العامة وعيان المعاشرة بالمعروف من كرم القول والطيب وطلاقة الوجه وبشاشته والتقدير والاحترام. He says, so each of the spouses, they respond to the treatment that is fulfilled, or the treatment that is given by their spouse and their companion, by when they receive their rights and kind treatment, that they give kind treatment in turn. Although how this kind treatment manifests itself may differ from the husband to the wife, he said, but certain things are shared. Min karam al-qawli wa tuybihi. And for example, he said, speaking to one another with dignity and honor, as was stated by the wife of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, with the kasra, both correct to pronounce. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib or Musayyib. His wife, she said, كُنَّا نُخَاطِبْ أَزْوَاجَنَا كَمَا يُخَاطِبُ أَحَدُكُنَّ أَوْ إِحْدَاكُنَّ الْأَمِيرِ. She said, speaking to the woman of the younger generation, and the wife of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib was who? The wife of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib was the most knowledgeable of the tabi'een. He was married to the daughter of, he was a scholar of Medina in the time of the second generation of Islam. He was married to the daughter of Abu Hurairah. So the wife of Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib was reported, she said, and here, what we understand from that is, Allah knows best, the daughter of Abu Hurairah. She said, whoever his wife was at that time, we believe it was the daughter of Abu Hurairah, she said that we used to address our husbands like you people would address your ruler, like you would address the king and the ruler. Na'am aslahakallah. Yes or no, may Allah rectify you, may Allah improve you, may Allah embetter you, may Allah have mercy upon you, so on and so forth. You talk to a scholar, you talk to a dignified person, Hafidhakallah, Ra'akallah, may Allah protect you, may Allah keep you, may Allah preserve you, so on and so forth. That's how the women used to speak to their husbands in the time of the Salaf. And so, this is something that is shared. That's not particular to the woman. But the man, he speaks with good words, with kind words. وَقُولِ عِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنزَغُ بَيْنَهُمْ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said in the verse, I believe it's in Surah Al-A'raf, and say to my slaves that they are to say that which is absolutely best. Indeed, the shaitan wishes to cause hatred between them. Indeed, shaitan is an open enemy to mankind. Allah revealed these verses. This is one of 3 passages in the Quran where Allah instructed the Muslims in detail. I think it's the CBs, right? Where Allah is instructing the Muslims how to speak and deal with the kuffar. Not that these are the only places in the Quran, but in these particular verses, Allah tells people how to deal with the shayateen of mankind and jinnkind. Right? How to deal with the kuffar and how to deal with the devils. Right? The unseen devils. Right? Say to my slaves that they are to say that which is absolutely best. Meaning in speaking to the kuffar and dealing with the kuffar. And the Muslims, when they interact with the kuffar, not to make unnecessary enemies. Not to make unnecessary enemies. That they are to say that which is absolutely best. Speak words that are best, that are most wise, most intelligent, and the most effective, so on and so forth. And so, if this applies to the kuffar, then it applies to the Muslims even more. And if it applies to the Muslims even more, it applies to the people that are closest to you the most. Because the closer a person is to you, the more they have of the right of the neighbor. Right? They have the rights of suhbah, the rights of al-mujawara, the rights of being in your vicinity. Right? The person who is next to you in the masjid, the person who is next to you in traffic, the person who is your neighbor, so on and so forth. The closer a person is to you, the more right they have upon you. So the person who lives inside of your home, raises their children, the person that you married, so on and so forth, right? To death do us part. If you got married before Islam, that's what they say, right? To death do us part. And it's encouraged in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that indeed a man from the people of the book used to marry a woman, used to marry a woman before she knew how to sew. And at a very young age, At-Tahawi, he said in Mushkil al-Athar, meaning the scholars, they say, she was young in age, and she was brash in behavior. And he was patient with her, right? And nothing separate, فَلَا يُفَرِّقْ بَيْنَهُمَا إِلَى الْمَوْتِ. كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, and nothing will separate between them except for death. A man he would marry, a what? A man from the people of the book, a man from the Jews or the Christians, marries a woman before she is very old, and when she is younger in age, so on and so forth. She may be at the age barely of adolescence, so on and so forth, the marriable age in Islam, and she may be rough in behavior. She may have a lisanun had, and a sharp tongue, so on and so forth. He's patient with her. He works with her. He said, "You crazy girl." He said, every time she flips out, he said, "You don't mean that. You're so silly." Right? He has a sense of humor about the whole situation, these sorts of things. He's lighthearted, and so nothing separates between them except for death. Right? And that's what they say in their vows, to death do us part. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged us with that. Right? The Prophet ﷺ encouraged us with that. The remainder of the hadith from the Tabi'in, he said, and it has reached us, meaning from some of those that we met from the people of knowledge, so on and so forth, that from the most disgusting acts of fahisha is that a man would marry a woman and she would give him the fruits of her womb, meaning she would produce child after child after child for him. And he would divorce her without any reason. He would just divorce a woman just because he got bored with her, so on and so forth. Something happened, he wanted some variety, right? He wanted to marry a Spanish woman, or he wanted something different. He's like, I've been with you for a long time, and the girl at the bodega, she keeps, she's interested in Islam, and you don't want me to be happy, I just want to give da'wah. It's for the good of Islam, so he cuts the girl loose. She has 6 children by her, he barely got a job, so Allah help us, right? And he divorces her min duni riba, and without any reason. He doesn't have any doubts about her integrity or chastity or so on and so forth. I remember a friend of mine asked, and he had been married for about 20 years. He asked our Shaykh al-Walid Hassan al-Banna, may Allah preserve him, about taking a second wife. And he said that your current wife that you have children by, she is ra'sul mal. He said, "You're a businessman." I would rather own a business. He said, "You're a businessman." He said, "You understand capital and profit. You understand capital and business and profit and business. You have your capital that your profit is built upon, right? So you have capital, that's what, you never sacrifice your capital. You never jeopardize your capital." He said, "Your current wife is your capital. You have children by her. This is, you're building a family, right? You have children by her, it would be detrimental. And if you took a second wife, how is she going to react, so on and so forth." He said, so never lose your first wife because you want to take a second wife. He said, your second wife, she is ribh. Your second wife, if you take her, she's just profit. She's just profit, right? He said, and be patient with your first wife, who is your capital, even if she has a sharp tongue, even if she misbehaves, so on and so forth. Be patient with her. Be patient with her. Whatever the case, some people are hasty, and they're willing to sacrifice what is most important for what is, really from their desires. Ala kulli, and so they have these rights of karam al-qawl wa tayyibihi wa talaqat al-wajh wa bashashatihi wa taqdir al-ihtiram, of speaking kind words to one another in a dignified, respectable, honorific fashion towards one another, of having a cheerful disposition. لا تحقيرن من المعروف شيئا وأن تلقى ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't discount the value of any act of goodness, even if it is just meeting your brother in faith with a cheerful disposition. And you see the spouses, they don't have any sadaqah for one another. They can't smile in the faces of each other. They look bored. That's not yanbaghi. Even if you're tired, right? Even if you're tired, you should be cheerful around your spouse. She should be cheerful around you. These sorts of things, we have to always remind ourselves of these sorts of things. And you don't want to be munaffir. You want to be a person who runs people away from you. A person doesn't feel comfortable being in your company because you're unpleasant. And you're mutashakkiya, a person who wants to complain all the time. And every time somebody sees you, you want to go back and forth and play the dozens with them and so on and so forth. That's not from the etiquette of the Muslim. And it's a shared right between the spouses, and that they keep this atmosphere, of amicability and happiness and so on and so forth inside of the home, even if only for the sake of appearances, even if you don't mean it, even if just for the sake of your children growing up in a happy home, that you're not going back and forth, arguing, complaining, so on and so forth, talking down to your husband, belittling your husband, these sorts of things in front of your daughters, who see that type of behavior and may replicate it when they get older. Or the son sees that type of behavior from his father and replicates it when he becomes older. And so they pass on poison, destructive weapons to one generation after another generation after another generation. And we look up and we are 3, 4, 5 generations into Islam. And the Islam hit many families in the 40s, 50s, 60s. People have great-grandparents that are Muslims, but the family structure that has come after all these generations is destroyed. It is messed up. We haven't been able to build anything because we have been passing on poison generation after generation after generation. And this is something that is from the wounds of Jahiliyyah and the skeletons in the closets of the people that they need to do away with. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said on the day of Arafah, when he said that indeed all of the affairs of al-Jahiliyyah mawdu'at tahta qadamayya hatayn, and indeed all the affairs of Jahiliyyah are crushed under my 2 feet at this moment. Jahiliyyah is dead, is gone. It's under my feet. It's under my feet. And so this is what has to occur. This is what has to occur. And he mentions a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ after saying that they had to be cheerful with one another, happy with one another, respect one another, value one another, and he pardon the mistakes and the faults of one another, overlook the shortcomings of one another. Other than that, from the things that are from the rights of the spouses towards one another. He said, and from that is a person paying attention to their appearances and having a good and a physical appearance to themselves. A person, they, try to deal with what they call the spare tire. Right? They try to deal with certain things that are unsightly, or at least put on some nice clothes to cover it. Right? Person tries to have their hair looking nice, their body looking nice, so on and so forth. I remember our brother Abu Wais, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, the sister, she doesn't walk around the house looking like Baba, right? Sister walking around the house in cornrows looking like a convict. You know what I'm saying? You say, sister, what are you going to do something with your head? Shahada, right? Alhamdulillah, the man, he should be mindful of his appearance. He shouldn't be looking like a barbarian walking through the house, and he looking like he has trolls and headlocks. He hasn't done the sunnah in a long time. He's sloppy built. He smells, he's musty, so on and so forth. The Shaykh, he mentions this, and he mentions the known statement of one of the companions, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, and he said, "Inni la uhibbu an atazayyana lil mar'ati kama uhibbu an tazayyana li." He said, I love to beautify myself for the woman just as I like that she pretties herself up for me. I like to do myself up for her like I like for her to do herself up for me. Right? The companions, they were very affectionate people. They say people in warmer climates, they have, warmer blood. Right? I think the farther north you get, the more cold people get, and the less intimate they are with one another. And there are tremendous statements. So perhaps we'll read some of them at some point. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala mentions from a number of the Salaf, and who loved intimacy with their wives, and they were very active intimately with their wives in the plural, and how they would adorn themselves and beautify themselves and so on and so forth. The ulama of the Sunnah, people like Al-Layth ibn Sa'd and others, and the ulama of the Sunnah, Al-Imam An-Nasa'i rahimahullah ta'ala, the author of the well-known book of Hadith. This was known from him, kana min kahin, and he was a man that really liked to spend time with his womanfolk, not just conversating, right? He liked to spend time with his womanfolk. This was known from him. Right? He liked to keep a young thing around and all sorts of things. He had a little bit of money, and he, mashallah, liked to stay young. And he liked to stay young. And so the scholars, and it was known, and this is even in the narration, and in those narrations that are found in the books of Siyar and the books of the biographies of the scholars, that mention those things, they always mention how those scholars, these people of knowledge, these righteous people, how it was known that they would adorn themselves for their wives, that they would put on good clothing, good-looking clothing, so on and so forth, that they had a little bit of romanticism about themselves, they had a little bit of suave about themselves, and so on and so forth. They weren't just, just go in there and be like, what time it is. They go in there, spend time with the woman, talk to her, so on and so forth, give her rights, those sorts of things, put on nice clothing to visit their wives and their slaves and so on and so forth. Ala kullin, he said, وَعَدْمُ إِفْشَاءِ السِّرِّ بَيْنَهُمَا أَوْ ذِكْرِ قَرِينِهِ بِعَيْبٍ وَسُوءٍ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. He said, and from this likewise, is that just as they look at their behavior towards one another, and their pleasantness towards one another, and their appearance when they are around one another, that they don't divulge the secrets of one another, or mention their spouse with fault. And you find fault with their spouse and mention that my wife or my husband is like this or like that between the people. As is coming in the hadith, إِنَّ مِنْ أَشَرِّ النَّاسِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَنْزِلَةً يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ الرَّجُلُ يُفْضِي إِلَى امْرَأَتِهِ وَتُفْضِي إِلَيْهِ ثُمَّ يَنْشُرُ سِرَّهَا. From the most evil of people and standing with Allah on the Day of Judgment is a man who consorts with his wife, goes into privacy with his wife, and she goes into privacy with him, and then he spreads what is secret of her situation, what is unknown of her, and between the people, her physical description, for the good or the bad, and talking about her character, all these sorts of things. وَنَحْوَ ذَلِكَ مِنْ جُزِئِيَاتِ الْآدَابِ الْعَامَةِ وَعَيَانِ الْمُعَاشَرَةِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وانطلاقا من مفردات المماثلة في الحقوق التي ينبغي على كل من الزوجين أن ينهض بها ويسعى إلى تحقيقها وتأديتها حق الأداء. نتناول جملة منها على وجه التوضيح والتقريب في العناصر التالية. He said, and other than that, from the individual etiquettes that are expected from the spouses in dealing with each other in goodness. And so to proceed into the individual rights, and because this is just a summary, the individual rights, the most important rights that are the shared rights of the spouses, I need to clarify them individually. Then we say as follows, we summarize them in the following points, and we'll just mention them, what they are, and next week we'll go over them in some detail, inshallah. He said the first is mutually advising one another with goodness and to obey Allah, and cooperating upon obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and reminding each other to fear Allah. So mutual advice and reminding each other to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he goes into some detail. The second thing, تجسيد المودة والرحمة في الحياة الزوجية, is embodying love and mercy in marital life. The embodiment of love and mercy in marital life. Then he goes into some detail about that. And we'll hear this next week, inshallah. The third, ثالثا بذل الثقة وإحسان الظن, and he is trusting one another and having good thoughts about one another. And he mentions the details of that. رابعا التحلي بخلق الصبر واحتمال الأذى. Fourthly, is adorning ourselves with the character of patience with one another and bearing the harms of one another. خامسا المسؤولية المشتركة في بناء أسرة متكاملة. Fifthly is sharing the responsibility of building a family whose parts complement one another, whose parts complete one another, a complementary family, a family that is complete and perfect and not deficient, that is sustainable, and so on and so forth. And so this is the 5 things that the Shaykh mentions from the shared rights between the spouses in general that we'll read over next week. If Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala allows us to live so long, we ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala for righteous deeds and long lives. And we ask Allah Ta'ala to reunite us with our families in the paradise, and to be of those that He mentioned, Ta'ala. He said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ فِي إِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُمْ مِنْ عَمَلِهِمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And as regards those who believe and their offspring follow them in their faith, we will reunite them on the day of judgment with their families. And after this long period of time of being separated from one another, and this is without a doubt the most important of affairs to a Muslim, that he be reunited with his believing family, with his wife and his children, his grandchildren, so on and so forth in the paradise. We ask Allah Ta'ala to safeguard us upon Iman wherever we may be. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.